Hey there, all you cool cats and kittens. Carol Baskin here from the Tiger King. That's what I am today. Today is costume day here at Zonton, and tomorrow is Halloween if you're watching this today. And I have some of my lovely stuffed cats here. I didn't have a tiger, but this is the closest thing I could find to a leopard and a cat. These were actually mine when I was a little girl, and my mom still had them in a box in the basement. And thank goodness, so that way my Carol Baskin was very happy with my big stuffed cat. Also, there's a teacher here who dressed up as a tiger, um, and I posted that picture on Facebook and Instagram. It's so great. I'm gonna take this off now, but you can see how it says, "Hey, you all, you cats and kittens." This is the only thing I bought. Everything else I already had. Anyways, so hello and happy Halloween. I thought I would make a fun YouTube video about scary books. Those are some of my favorite scary books that we have here. I'm going to share with you one, two, three, four, five, six, and then I'm going to read to you a story from the Scary Story Reader. Um, I won't do very long, but okay, so let's get started. This is one of my favorite authors. He writes a lot of really good middle grade scary and mystery. He's written both of these. These are some of my favorite middle grades books. He is fantastic. Dan Pawlowski. Blocky. All right, this one. If you have ever heard about Waverly Hills here in Louisville, this is a book a lot like it. Let me tell you what it's about. Okay. Staying with their aunts over summer, Neil, Katie, his sister Bree, and their new friends Wesley and Eric set out to explore Greylock Hall, an abandoned psychiatric hospital that's supposed to be haunted by the ghost of Nurse Janet. And that's what the Waverly Hills used to be, a psychiatric hospital. Then it became a tuberculosis hospital. And I'm just going to read like the first little bit because I just love this book. The prologue. Every town has its share of secrets, and when whispered by children in the dead of night, some secrets become stories. They percolate and brew and change. Sometimes, under special circumstances, the stories become legends, designed to survive even as the children who share them grow up and move on. So good. Okay, there's that one. This kind of reminds me of The Shining with like the two sisters. If you've ever seen the movie The Shining, like the two girls in the hallway, it's kind of like that. Let me tell you what it's about. Well, The Nightmares. This one's also very popular. Okay. Seventh grader Timothy July and his new friend Abigail try to break a curse that is causing them and others to be tormented by their greatest fears brought to life. But these scary little girls are somebody's fear. If you like good scary, oh, this one's so good for a scary book. I'm not a super big scary book fan, but this one's really good. I actually just finished reading this one. It could be potentially on the Kentucky Bluegrass Award, maybe eventually. This one is called The Warren Books, and it's the first book. It's a new graphic novel series, but it is like slightly scary and slightly fantasy. These kids are Warrens. They're witches, but they're a little different because they have their own little astrals, which are sidekick demons, and they go to a school at night. Um, and it's like a specifically like witch school, but they also like hang out with like demons and werewolves, and but it's in a very like it's not so scary. It's just like the theme is kind of scary, but then they do come across a haunted house, and there's this weird, mysterious creature who ends up stealing her little brother in the middle of the night. They have to go and rescue him. So it's a really good book. It's not super scary, and the illustrations are very much colorful. This is an easy read. I really liked this. Okay. Neil Schusterman is also a fantastic scary book writer. I have a ton of his books here at school, but this one is one of his best scary ones called Full Tilt. Let me read to you what it's about. 16-year-old Blake has always been the responsible one in his dysfunctional family, the one who drives safely, who gets good grades, and looks after his wild younger brother Quinn. Quinn is his brother's opposite, a thrill seeker who's always chasing the next scary rush, no matter the cost. But Quinn and Blake are in for the surprise of their lives when they are thrust into the world of a bizarre phantom carnival, and their souls are the price of admission. In order to save his brother and himself, Blake must survive 7 different carnival rides before dawn. 7 rides. Sounds easy, but each ride is full of unexpected dangers because each ride is a reflection of one of Blake's deepest fears. And the last ride is the worst of all, because that's the one that confronts Blake with a terrifying secret from his past, a secret he's been running from for years. Full of roller coaster twists and turns, Neil Schusterman's latest page turner is an adventure into one boy's past. This is so good. Like a haunted carnival. Oh, it's so good. I love that one. Okay, are we good? Okay, I think we're okay. Anyway, sorry. It said something about like my microphone quit working. I hope it kept working. Sorry for that. Anyways, we have tons and tons of Goosebump books. So if you like one, let me know. This one, I think I might have recorded about this one before, but that's okay. This book is about a haunted doll, and these kids have to try to return her back to the factory where she became haunted. So then that way they can like, I don't know, help the doll like not haunt them anymore. It's a really good book. All right, and then I would thought I would read a story. Hopefully the audio is still working. It says it's working. Hello, hello. Okay, good. So scary story reader. I have several of these, like scary stories that are a bunch of short stories put in one. I have at least like 5 or 6. If you like a scary story, some of these are like short little stories, and you're not like a big novel person, this is like a good compromise. All right, let me tell you what kind of stories are in this one. There's some urban legends. There's one called Don't Look Back, Hook Arm, Pound of Snakes, The Call from the Downstairs Phone, The Call from the Grave, Last Kiss. And there's urban runner-ups, so like ones that are set in an urban area. Um, so there's lots of different short stories. None of them are very long, like 4 or 5 pages. I'm going to read. I'm going to read the first one. Just the like. It's only it's only 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. So I thought I would read it to you. It's called Don't Look Back. Folklorists call this story the boyfriend's death, and this in some states is known by the title Drip, Drip, Drip. 2 teenagers drove out along a dirt road beyond the city limits to park. They stopped under a huge oak tree so the car would be hidden in shadow. That way, none of their friends could drive up and spotlight them to embarrass them. It was a cold night, close to Halloween, so they left the engine running and the heat on, with one window down for a little fresh air. The radio was on so they could hear the out-of-town football game. Just as the boy was about to make a move, the hourly news came on. Texas Rangers report that sinister survivalist arrested for tax evasion yesterday has killed his captors and escaped, although his legal name has never been determined from his many false ID cards. The boy reached over to switch to music station until the news went off. The girl stopped him. The newscaster continued. Dressed in camos and armed with a huge hunting knife he was carrying when he was arrested. More news and a commercial followed, but there was nothing else about the camo killer. The girl was afraid and insisted they drive somewhere lighter to park. The boy put the car in gear, but it died. They had parked there long enough to run out of gas. The boy's family were friends with the farm family that lived just up the road. The boy got out and took a metal gas can from the trunk. You keep the keys, he said, and keep the windows up and the doors locked. I'll go across the field to that barn and borrow a gallon of gas. I won't even have to wake the family. I'll just tip their little tractor back and siphon some out of that tank. The boy shut off the door and set off in the darkness. The girl locked all the doors. The car got colder and colder, and as the wind began to blow, branches from the oak tree began to scrape on the side of the car. It sounded like someone trying to get in. The girl slid to the floor and hid as best she could. She waited and waited and waited. Sometime in the deep of night, she fell asleep. She awoke in darkness and didn't want to turn on the key to see the clock. She was too scared to get up from the floor. The wind was still blowing, and branches were still scraping on the car. Big wet drops began to hit the roof of the car. It didn't quite sound like rain. It must have sprinkled when she was asleep, and now the drops were sifting through the oak leaves and hitting the car. Drip, drip, drip. Time passed, and she fell asleep once more. Hours later, she awoke again. She felt awake, like it was morning, but she couldn't see outside. It was still black as midnight. The sound continued. Drip, drip. It was a night after all. The windows were covered with mud or something. It was a dirt road, but somehow it didn't seem possible for the whole car to be covered with mud. She found the keys and put them in the ignition. Sitting up, she turned the key and flipped on the windshield wipers. The wipers flipped back and forth and cleared the windshield long enough she could finally see outside through the thick red stain. It was dawn, and there was just enough light for her to see a car coming towards her with its lights off. It was a state police car with two officers in it. One was talking excitedly on the radio. They stopped, put on their Smokey the Bear hats, and got out slowly, drawing their guns. They approached the car. The girl knew she was in trouble with her parents, but why would the police be drawing their guns? One officer came to her side of the car, looked in through the windshield, and put his pistol away. The girl opened the door and started to get out. "Don't look back," said the officer, taking her shoulders in his hands and helping her out. As she emerged, red liquid dripped off the car and onto her arm. She was looking at the stain, and then they walked to the police car. The officer took off his hat and held it near her face. "Don't look back," he said again. The stain wasn't mud. It looked like blood. Blood. Enough blood to cover the entire car. The second officer jumped behind the wheel of the patrol car and revved the engine. The officer helping the girl let her into the back seat of the patrol car. He slammed the door, and the driver sped away, leaving the first policeman there at the scene. "Don't look back," said the officer in the driver's seat, but the girl couldn't help herself. As they roared past the car covered with blood, she looked up. Dangling from the tree by his heels was her boyfriend. His head was hanging just above the car, and his arms hung down, dragging on the roof. Blood ran down his face, down his arms, down the car, and his throat was cut. So if you like scary stories for Halloween, let me know and I can check this out for you. Any of these books are available to be checked out. You can click the link below to request it, and we can fulfill the book request by putting it in the Curbside library filing cabinet. Have a great day and happy Halloween.